Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I am so honored to introduce you all to sexual assault survivor, whistleblower, and overcomer, frontwoman, singer, and songwriter for the band Wisher, loving fiancee to Noah, black belt badass, belly dancing goddess, workout fanatic, creative writer, artist, and poet, Pirates of the Caribbean devottee, animal lover, Pokemon card collector, special effect and set building aficionado, former Jane from Tarzan, recovering alcoholic and sobriety champion, and an incredible young woman breaking her silence for the very first time today, Kayleigh KAnn. A little bit about Kayleigh and what we will be discussing today. Born with dreams that refuse to stay small, young Kayleigh scribbled singer on those childhood what I want to be papers. Music was never a hobby. It was a destiny written in her bones. Today, as the ethereal yet thunderous voice of Wisher, Kayleigh channels that calling into symphonic metal that blends the grandeur of Nightwish, the cinematic sweep of Hans Zimmer, and the heavy fire of Avenged Sevenfold. Their music is raw, evolving, and deeply human. Shorter, sharper tracks like Aqua Devita that feel like an emotional release, harmony-laden guitars that soar like choirs, and live shows where Kayleigh performs as if every modest venue is Live Aid. She closes her eyes, sees thousands, spins, jumps, and pours out her soul because the stage is her haven, her zone, and her way of sharing joy, no matter if 2 people or 2,000 adoring fans stand before her. Wisher itself tells a story of growth and chosen family. After years of lineup changes and compromise, the current steadfast crew of Wisher jams from the heart, meshing whimsical wonder with crushing riffs and prioritizing real connection over perfection. The band's journey mirrors Kayleigh's own, honest, theatrical, a little intense, and utterly authentic. They've turned bar stages and club nights into sacred spaces of celebration, even when life throws emergencies, health struggles, or industry hurdles their way. Kayleigh leads with love, canceling shows if a bandmate needs care, always choosing mental health and family over deadlines because she knows what truly matters. Yet Kayleigh's light shines brightest against the shadows. She has looked unflinchingly at the entertainment industry's underbelly, its documented ties to exploitation and human trafficking, and refused to dim her own path. A survivor herself who carries the weight of knowing too much, she reevaluated her dreams rather than selling her soul for fame. She speaks openly about the darkness, artists lost, survivors silenced, monopolies like Live Nation squeezing out local voices, and the ethical cost of success. Her response? Double down on integrity, support real artists who build with heart and entrepreneurship, treat music as ministry, prioritize purpose over profit, and fiercely protect what is sacred. And on today's show, Kayleigh will be breaking the silence on her own story of survival, a life-altering traumatic event and aftermath that changed her life forever, a testimony of ultimate betrayal by people she loved, trusted, and cared deeply about, And together, we will be taking off the heavy layers of guilt and shame that have weighed heavy on her heart and soul for many years and shedding them, handing them back to those who caused the betrayal that was never supposed to happen. Kayleigh has spent years advocating for others. She has loudly been cheering on the survivor community, learning, educating others, and being an incredible ally, all while silently harboring a testimony of her own. And today, that silence breaks. Today, a bright light gets shine on the darkness. And today, Kayleigh's voice expands from singing on stages in her online advocacy and into the eyes and ears of those ready to bear witness to her own story of overcoming. Today, she passes the torch she has received from other survivors in her own healing journey to all of you here with us today. Kayleigh is proof that survivors don't just endure. They rise, they sing, and they uplift. She is the friend who stays intense because the world needs intensity, the artist who chooses ethics when shortcuts beckon, the woman who sees the good in people and dares us to protect it. In her music and her message, she hands us back our own light, the reminder that we all have a soul, a purpose, and the power to create beauty. She is living testimony that no matter what you've survived, your voice can still shake the world with love. Keep shining, Kayleigh. The stages, big and small, are waiting, and so are the hearts you're destined to heal. This is only the beginning of your symphony. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, voice for the voiceless, woman of God, passionate purveyor and seeker of truth, walking miracle, survivor, overcomer, and thriver, fierce anti-child abuse and survivor advocate, spiritual warrior and woman of God, my dear friend, and an incredible wisher of healing, love, compassion, and empathy, the one, the only, Kayleigh KAnn. Kayleigh, it is an honor to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for that intro. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was just absolutely gorgeously written. You're very skilled with words. I admire a wordsmith, as I love words very much, and you did a very beautiful job. Thank you very much for saying those nice things about me, and to other survivors who deserve to hear intros like that. I feel like they deserve it more than I do, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Yeah, and you said pass the torch. I thought that was cool because I have a torch on my, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, no way, look at that. Yes, look at that.
I suck at showing the camera.
Kind of an awkward angle. That's so
like,
cool.
Yeah, and I got my pirates. These are all my pirate tattoos, but
yeah. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I share a tattoo with Johnny Depp, actually. It's just
no way.
It's the moon and the stars. This is like the standard Jack Sparrow tattoo that in the first movie when he pulls his sleeve up, he knows it's Jack Sparrow because of this tattoo. And Johnny Depp has the same tattoo on his arm, but it says Jack. And then I have a poem that says well, it's not a poem, but it's a quote from a poet. Follow your inner moonlight, don't hide the madness. And this is one of my favorite tattoos because I have the moon and the stars because I'm a night owl. And it's in the font of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like when you see the title, it's that font. And it's an Allen Ginsberg quote, actually, because, Johnny Depp, he narrated for Jim Morrison, and Jim Morrison knew Allen Ginsberg, and they were all part of that beatnik poetry community, which I love so very much.
That's so neat. I would love to see a tattoo tour sometime of all your tattoos because they're so beautiful and vibrant, and I'm sure there's a story and intention behind every single one of them.
Well, when you mentioned Avenged Sevenfold, I wanted to do this because this is Avenged Sevenfold logo, and I dedicated a whole shoulder to them. It's not that bad.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And you have a Wisher tattoo. We're going to be talking about your baby, your creation, Wisher. And that's the logo she just showed.
I thought it was cool when Cash mentioned getting a tattoo of the cab when he first believed in the cab, because I was like, I got a Wisher tattoo. I believe in Wisher. So I thought that was great. He had a great testimony as well.
He did, and just so humble about all of it. And, it's really amazing when people do share, especially when maybe that it wasn't something on their bingo card that they had planned on, or maybe it's not something that they went through all their life. It was, one event or two events or a year of events. It can be really easy to just kind of bury that stuff down or to think it doesn't matter. And the truth is, trauma is really what bonds all of us. It's so interesting because it's like the one thing that we keep safe and hidden within us. And we go out in the world and we pretend everything's good. And sometimes it is really good. And sometimes it's not something that we have to put on a face for. But I know for me, there's times where I meet random people and, hey, how you doing? Or how's your day going? I'll just say good. It's just like a habit. I'm not going to dump my, say what's really going on to a complete stranger. But sometimes you find when you do have those honest conversations, and this podcast is a tribute to that, when we have the courage to talk about those things that are locked up and to take the key, unlock it, and let it come out for other people to hear, all of a sudden people don't feel alone anymore. They don't feel ashamed. They don't feel guilty. They feel comforted, and they realize that it's okay and that they're not the only ones that go through stuff. And it's really important, no matter what we go through, that we have the courage to talk about it, and I know you've been harboring, you've had a lock and key with part of your life for many years, and you've suffered deeply because of these events that you went through, and on the other hand, it's so inspiring to see who you are and who you've become because of it, to see your journey through sobriety, to see you on stage, the videos that you clipped, just to see you in your element. Nobody would ever know that you've ever went through anything bad in your life, and it's just incredible in the way that you've supported the survivor community. Even though you're carrying your own story, you're still opening up your arms to make room to have compassion and love and to bless everybody else who is going through a hard time. And, it's really amazing. And, I wanted to personally thank you. You've been listening to my podcast for a long time. You've listened to so many episodes. You're always there. I see you on posts of survivors, especially if they're like getting bullied or if you catch something cool that they did. You're always the first one on there encouraging them or standing up for them or promoting them. And it's just really amazing. I can't thank you enough for doing that because, like I said, nobody would ever know you were carrying this testimony of your own, and you're out there championing and just giving so much of yourself to other people. And I just really appreciate you supporting my podcast and for you going out and supporting other people and helping these survivors, feel validated going online and helping be a champion for them.
I try to treat others the way I would want to be treated. So I feel like they deserve to be elevated. Their stories deserve to be elevated, especially because I feel so frustrated, like I need to do something about what's going on, and I feel responsible to be in a position that I'm in, so blessed and grateful for the life that I have, and to be so safe and without kind of stuff, the kind of stories that some of these survivors have. I feel like if they can, I can. And the first survivor I ever heard was JR, so big thank you to JR because you woke me up, and your story was so well spoken, and it was quite honestly the worst shit I've ever heard in my life, but it woke me up aggressively, and I was like, okay, I need to be aware, like I need to be doing something, like I had to really process that. But the reason I found JR is because he had Disney in the title. It's actually how I found you at all, because there was Disney in the title. So I should start with the Disney story, right? Or my family.
Yes, let's talk about Disney and relate it to why you were even online anyways looking up any of this stuff.
Yes. So there's a story in my family that my grandfather's brother told us when we were kids, where he said that back in the day, and I'm going to guess back in the day means the 60s. I think he was talking about the 60s or earlier than that. I mean, these are older men, so probably earlier than the 60s, to be honest. 40s? I don't know. My uncle was a young man who loved to ride motorcycles, and he said, Walt Disney is a distant cousin of ours through marriage on that side. And he said he had an opportunity to go to the Disney studio back in the day, and it had just started. It was brand new Walt Disney Studio, apparently. It was like right when he was still doing the first sketches of Mickey Mouse. Like it was like early on. And he said to Walt, he was like, well, are you going to give me a job? Like, what's the purpose of me coming? And Walt was like, oh, just to look at the studio. And my uncle was like, well, then I don't care about coming to your studio. I'm going to go ride my motorcycle. And that was the end of that. So I don't know how he's related or if that's even true, but it is a rumor that has been told a few times in the family on my mom's dad's side. So I think it might be kind of true. We've been researching that side of the family, me and my cousin, trying to find that, and we haven't found it yet. But we're certainly Irish. And that's all I know right now. And I found out some interesting like prison records from my grandpa as well, that apparently he escaped prison, and we were like, what? And his prison records weren't easy to find, but he went to prison for safe breaking. He was breaking into a safe, and then he had a second thing that he was charged with, which was escaping prison. So he escaped, and my grandpa moved around a lot. Very, very briefly, I'm just going to mention my mom is genuinely lucky to have survived her childhood. My mom is a very strong person, and she will maybe one day be able to tell her story. The things that she's told me are awful, and no child should ever have to go through the things my mom went through, but she's very strong, and I just want to honor her today and talking about what happened to me. My mom knows about what happened to me. My mom knows about all this stuff. She also really loves Jesus, so we're all going to be hanging out in heaven one day, kind of in peace. In peace, all of this will be eventually resolved at some point, and we will all be like, wasn't it cool how we all came together? It was, and we were loving anyways, you know, and we're going to be with all our cute little dogs. My mom saves tons and tons of dogs. She saves dogs that she shouldn't save because it's kind of like a stressful situation. She doesn't have enough house for all these dogs. But, and then she saved rats recently, and I said, Mom, this is a slippery slope with these rats, because she was like, well, I don't want them to be snake food. And I was like, well, they kind of breed them for that. And she's like, well, it won't be these ones. And then they were so much work on top of all the other animals that she saves. We also have a chinchilla. So, like, anytime a customer has an animal they don't want, because we clean houses, they're like, oh, you want this animal? And then my mom will take it. It's just...
Aww. That's so sweet.
All rats, and it was kind of sad, but I'm glad my mom doesn't have rats anymore.
And I just want to thank your mom, if she ends up listening to this, for breaking the cycle. You know, after doing this for so many years and talking to so many survivors who had parents that didn't have the courage to do that, they just continued it on to their kids. I can't even imagine how difficult it would be to step out of that. You know, of course, morally, I understand, and I feel like I would fight with all my might to change that. But it's so much easier said than done when you hear about, you know, the manipulation and how it can be on just your self-esteem to even believe you could do anything like that, you know. So kudos to your mom. Yeah. And she raised an absolutely amazing daughter. I don't know if you have siblings, but I know you turned out absolutely incredible, and I know that that's a tribute to her love for you and, you know, how much she cared about protecting you from things that she may have went through. So thank you, Mama.
Thank you, Mom. Yeah, she spoiled me. She spoiled me for sure. And I have a lot of wonderful aunts and uncles who also, you know, are very strong, wonderful people that endured so much with my grandpa. So, I'm really grateful to all of them as well for being such wonderful. My family is wonderful. I love my mom's. My mom's family is just, we're all very close, and we all love each other very much, and they know that. So, and you know, they all influenced me musically in many different ways, and that's why I love all different styles. I love every genre. When people say, "Oh, you love every genre," I bet, and then they play something for you, and the only thing I've kind of been like, I don't know if I like this, is polka. Okay, polka. I can't just listen to a polka album for hours. The Like maybe I could. Maybe I'm just being rude. I don't know. Send me good polka then. If somebody wants to change my mind about it. But I genuinely love all music very much. I think a lot of metalheads do like lots of different genres because we're kind of smashing everything together. Apparently my biological father put headphones on my mom's belly when she was pregnant with me and played Black Sabbath. So
no way.
When I listened to Madison Clare's testimony, which, rest in peace, Madison, you deserve to be honored today as well. We love you, and you were beautiful and amazing. You are beautiful and amazing, and I hope that people share the shit out of your story. I reposted it, but there's more reposting to do. So people go to Madison Clare's testimony and go listen to her testimony and share it, share it, share it. Anyways, when Madison brought up Ozzy Osbourne, I was like, but of course. You see the way that things are going, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I do really love Ozzy. Ozzy is a big musical influence on me, just as a kid. You listen to music when you're a kid, and you don't know if the artist is a bad person or not. You just get attached to this music, these songs, as a child, and it becomes kind of a part of who you are. And then you grow up and you're like, man, I love this song. I could listen to Crazy Train over and over and over again. Love Randy Rhoads. Big influences on my current music that I write. So, yeah, I felt pretty bummed out to hear Madison mention Ozzy. That sucked. But
Well, you bring up a good point, though, and something that we do have to realize is understanding that people that are in these cult networks, these systems, these generational families, they are groomed from very, very young to be good at what they do. And so a lot of these people are insanely talented. They have parts of them that are just completely, that's all they did from, childhood on, is they're summoned to come out and triggered to come out to perform music and to learn music. And, they are insanely talented. And there's a lot, when you think about programming, if they're putting programming in songs, they're going to make sure that those songs are really, really good. So we can't be ashamed for liking music. We just have to look at it for what it is and understand that some of it's going to have programming in it, and to be aware of that, but I think completely just, turning away from music in a lot of cases difficult for people because it's so nostalgic. It's something that unites us, it's something that no matter where you're at in the world. And like you said, you can be at war with a different country, but maybe hear an album that was there and resonate with it. It's just something that defies every other border and boundary that we have as humans. It's something that helps us overcome that and come together, and so I think, again, that's why I'm excited to have you here too, for people that just really do want to start turning away from some of the music that maybe they've been listening to, or even just have music for their children to listen to that isn't necessarily corrupted while they're kids. It's good to have alternatives and to know that there's independent artists out there that are creating music for all different ages, for all different types of people, and that it's not just all doom and gloom if that's what people are upset about. But we do need to also acknowledge that a lot of these people went through really hard childhoods. You look at people like Britney Spears, and you understand what she went through. I know, and
her music.
It's I feel more sad for a lot of these people. I'm sure some of them are perpetrators and might not be good people, maybe, but I think it's more so that there's parts of them, just like what we hear, that are cult trained and, cult loyal and who are trained to do bad things, and other parts of them that are trained to do in front and are good people and have no idea that there's bad parts of them, So I think there's also we need to also have compassion for some of these people instead of just I hate all of this and I'm going to turn it off. And it is disappointing, though. It's sad to learn what these people go through and what they're involved with, but it's also very sad.
I really struggle with Eminem because, and this is kind of weird when I say this, but I went to bed at night as a kid listening to Eminem in my headphones and just listened to him.
Oh my God, me too. I freaking loved him.
And if you listen to his words now, I really liked the Relapse album, and I really liked Relapse and Refill, and I still love a lot of that music, but the lyrics are disgusting.
You hear it differently once you kind of know. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm I used to listen to him while I worked out because I listen to so much metal in my normal daily life that my workout playlists are all hip hop. Like I need like a hip hop banging, like, yeah, I'm getting fit, I'm getting in shape. So I listen to a lot of Beyonce, I listen to a lot of Britney Spears and stuff while I work out, and Eminem was a big one. And lately I've been listening to like Alex Terrible and baby metal, and just I just switched over. I don't know if they probably are. Baby metal's probably, I don't know about any of these guys. I haven't done research, but I like their music, and I needed something else to work out to, because I would be like working out and I'd get to like a certain lyric in a song and I'd just be like, what the fuck? What did I just hear? What did he just say? And I know the words. I know the words so well. And I was like, and I'm like saying words again that I knew, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually kind of horrifying how he talks about some things. And I've been close enough to him in the Detroit area to where I was like, oh, am I going to meet him? And then I don't meet him. Like, I keep brushing into places. Like, I was at the same studio he recorded at for a while, and I knew people who had met him. And the school I went to, I used to go to a school in downtown Detroit called Dime. And Skylar Gray even visited that school, and I was, like, excited about it because I've always dreamt of being, like, Eminem's chorus girl. Like, that was, like, I want to be the Haley Williams on an Eminem B.O.B. track, man. Like, that is my dream. And I feel like God has kept me distant from him on purpose, maybe. You know, because I've gotten so close a couple times, and then it falls through, which is, like, obviously, he's a very famous person. But I question some things and why I might have not met him yet. So maybe it's a good thing to meet Eminem, but I still kind of open to meeting him because I'm curious. I did have somebody say to me who changed my mind about him when I first was like horrified at his lyrics. She said, you could be the person that introduces him to Christ, genuinely. Like, you could genuinely be that person. And I'm like, me? I couldn't. And then you think of these celebrities, like, they're up there, you know? You're seeing them like that, and then she like leveled him with me. She like straight up was like, you could be the person that really shows him Jesus and helps him get saved, because we were having a ministry conversation. She's like, you could really help him get saved and like find love in his life and have peace. She's like, you could help him with that. And I was like, I couldn't help him with that. He's like up there, right? That's like my mind. But then she leveled him, and it blew my mind. My friend Tamori saying that, I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of crazy. And it changed my mind about celebrities a little. I mean, all of the stories I've heard changed my mind about celebrities a lot. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could go into.
One thing I wanted to ask you, just because I do want to talk about this part of your story also, especially because how it leads into the event that we're going to talk about. You know, I want to talk about how did you find your passion for music? Was that something that you've had ever since you can remember? Was there something that sparked that for you? And like, how did that traverse throughout your life to where you ended up being passionate and pursuing it professionally?
Yes, it was always a part of who I am. Like I said about the headphones on my belly, like I was listening to Black Sabbath real early. So I was destined to love heavy metal, which I do very much love heavy metal. It's why it's the genre that I write the most. But I do love other genres as well. And my grandma is like Motown. My mom loves funk music. She loves 70s like disco. She also likes Led Zeppelin and other rock 70s bands. And then my dad, who raised me, which is he's my stepdad. My mom has been with him since like a year after I was born. So I've always known him to be my father. And he's like Beatles, Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, Pink Floyd, The Doors, like very much in that psychedelic rock. And then I've got an aunt who we lived with for a little while, and all that side of the family was like the Eminem and the hip hop and the early 2000s bangers that we all know and love from our Now That's What I Call Music CDs. All that stuff was like that side. And I just always was like enamored with music. Music class is my favorite time of day. I moved schools a few times also. We moved a lot when I was a kid. So I moved schools a few times, and in that process, I just ended up, you know, where I grew up. In it was the end of 5th grade. It was like when I finally stopped, and then I went to the same middle school and the same high school. So I like moved around during elementary time a few times. So I got a lot of exposure to music, a lot of different people. And music was a solace for me when I was the new kid and felt weird. And I could always find people to connect to at music class, because if you're passionate about music, then you get me, because that's what I love. I listen to music all day long, my iPod, my MP3 players, and all that stuff. So, yeah, when I ended up getting through middle school, when I finally was like staying at a school for a while, I joined choir. I was very serious about choir, and when my mom realized how serious I was about choir, she was like, you gotta start taking piano lessons. So I took piano lessons, and I was in choir, and I made choir my elective as much as I possibly could until I got into high school. Then I joined the opening choir, and my electives were always open for choir in Spanish, because I was like, I'm gonna stick with the language, and I'm gonna stick with choir, and everything else that I have to do, I guess I'll do it. But like, choir is where I really want to be. So by the time I was a senior, I was in the chambers choir, and that's a choir that you have to audition for, and it's like a collegiate level choir where you compete in the state and all that stuff. I just love being on stage so much. It was just amazing. I was supposed to do a talent show in 3rd grade. I was supposed to sing Cowboy Take Me Away by the Dixie Chicks. And I had this little cow hat, cute little cowgirl outfit. And I remember walking out into the gymnasium and just being like mortified. I was in 3rd grade. I was so scared, and I was like, I can't do this. And I felt so bad, because it was like my turn to go, and I felt like people were really disappointed in me that I didn't sing, because I was too scared when I saw the crowd. And then I ended up in 5th grade, when I finally got to my base place where I was going to be in school. I was like, I'm going to do the talent show. I'm going to do it, because last time it was like my 5th grade dream. I was like, I got to sing this song at the next talent show. The next chance I got, I'm not going to bail. So then I tried again, and then I ended up on my high school's stage. Like our elementary school's talent show was held at the high school that I ended up at, so I was on that. They have a beautiful, large auditorium, gorgeous stage. And they had like all of these choir concerts, spring concerts, musicals. Any chance I could get into that auditorium from then on, I was doing it. So 5th grade, I sang on the stage at Walled Lake Northern, and I guess it's cool to shout out my high school. Walled Lake Northern's a cool high school. I think somebody was just in the Olympics, the ski-boarding guy or whatever. He went to Northern, I think, went to my high school. But yeah, they have a beautiful auditorium, and I started a band in my senior year, because I was focused on getting my black belt my first 3 years of high school and teaching karate, and that was an important part of my extracurriculars. And when you join a musical, you have to be after school every day for hours. It's a lot of rehearsing time. And I just didn't have time to do that, so I just ushered so that I could be involved with the musicals in some way. And then by senior year, I joined, I auditioned for Kala. I auditioned for like a different part, and I ended up getting Jane. And all the girls that were in my soprano section, because I was a soprano section 2 leader, they all hated me. They hated me so much. All these girls who I thought were my friends, they were so mean to me. I was so bummed out, and I was like, I'm just gonna start a band and do what I want to do. Like, you know, you get angsty, and you're a young angsty teenager. Like, let's start a metal band. My favorite band's Avenged Sevenfold, so, you know, I did the musical and all that stuff, and then I started a band that I wanted to be inspired by Avenged. because it's one of those artists that they do very well-rounded genres. Like they're mainly metal, but they've got a lot of different symphonic elements in their music and stuff, which I loved that because I love choir and all that stuff. So I'm getting closer to talking about Angelic Fiction, which was the name of my band. But before
I love that name.
Fiction, yeah, I named it
Fun name.
Fiction because of the Rev, Jimmy the Rev Sullivan. Another Jim. I love Jims. Jimmy the Rev Sullivan was the drummer of Avenged Sevenfold who passed away in 2009. I just was obsessed with Avenged and the Rev. He's my favorite drummer. His musical mind was incredible. He's got like early music he recorded called Pinkly Smooth when he was in high school of him singing. Really cool music, hard to find, very niche. But so yeah, I was just inspired, and Rev had a big tattoo down his body that said Fiction because he felt like his life wasn't real. And so I thought Angelic Fiction, like it would sound like a girl band, but it's also inspired by Avenged and all that stuff. So we did a Battle of the Bands with me and my ex-boyfriend at the time. I'm gonna call him A. I'm gonna leave him at A. His name's A. Anyways, he played guitar. Incredible guitar player. I will never deny that. One of the best guitar players. Really good shredder. And then we had our other guy. His name's T. And then we had another guy. His name is also T. And they're both named T. We did a Battle of the Bands and we played Avenged Sevenfold. And it was really cool. It was like our first show. And then we played a show at like some Detroit bar. After that, like when we graduated high school, it was like a summer we graduated high school, and we got paid like $80 for doing like a cover show, and it was just the three of us. So it was just me and two acoustic guitars. We got like $80.
You were like 18. That's so young.
Yes, I was 18. It was my first like legit gig, and I remember being like, we got paid to play music. Cool. Like this
is cool.
Yeah, and it was a really cool time. Graduating high school, feeling like, all right, I got my band now. I'm gonna do all these things. Our drummer wasn't working out because he didn't have a car, and he was younger than us, so we didn't want to keep driving him or driving to him. It was just a lot of driving. So we were like, nah, we're not gonna do this. So we found another drummer, and his name is N. His name is Nya. I want to just call him Yeah. I should say his name honestly, but he joined the band, and we were working on that song, Sunless Moon, that I sent you, and that song's still up if anybody's curious to listen to it. I still control the YouTube channel, but I don't really do anything with it because that band is dead. But I left that song up because it's the first song I ever wrote and like recorded with a band, and I did a lot of work on the vocals for that song. With a wonderful man named Tom Rice at the Audio Cafe. I'm going to shout out the Audio Cafe because it was the first professional studio I ever recorded in, and Tom is brilliant and very kind.
Do you want to play the song while we're talking about it? Should we play it?
Sunless Moon? I don't know.
What do you think?
Maybe just play like the end of it so you can hear the vocal parts that I'm talking about, because we don't want to listen to all those other musicians that were on that track. Because
okay,
we're going to talk about 2015 real soon here, because I graduated in 2014. So it was the summer of 2015 that I went through some trauma with those guys. You know.
And so this shows Angelic Fiction, so that is still on YouTube. And then let me see if I can. Do you know approximately where it's at? Or like about what time?
Let's see where you are there.
Okay, let's see.
And the moon begins to shine, 'cause our hearts are intertwined. Oh,
I need to move it back a little bit further?
No, that's good. That's all we needed to hear. That's just
Yes, me
really,
too. Gosh, you have such an angelic voice. That was absolutely beautiful.
thank you. I was 18 when I recorded that, so now
Wow.
I'm 29.
Amazing. Oh my goodness.
I always tell everybody, if there's like, you know how people say if you've done 10,000 hours of something, you've mastered it. Singing, I have done 10,000 hours of practice doing that. So that's definitely the only thing in this life that I can say, like, I have, and I still have work to do. I still have things that I want to be able to do with my voice, and I will be always working on my voice. Not saying I've like completely mastered it, but it is my 10,000 hours thing. Excellent. So the band was working on that song and recording that song. And at band practice, and any woman who is in an industry where you're around a lot of men, especially music, for me personally, it's always just like a girl in a band, and then you're always with the boys. Boys are always in the band. Now I got Emily, my lead guitar player. She's badass. And I'm so glad that I have her, because sometimes just her and I will agree against the boys. And it's just so great and satisfying to have a woman with me on my team. But at the time, I was just a woman with boys, and it just gets kind of messy. N, the drummer, was consistently putting his hands on me at band practice in like a silly way, in like a, oh, I'm just joking with you, you know, like we would go to his house and record like demos and hang out or whatever we were doing to try to write music together and to bond, band bonding time. And this guy would just always hug me. Like he'd always be hugging me with like his hands around my waist and like just things that I feel like I deal with this a lot at bars in general. Like all the women I work with, especially singers, you get off stage, people want to touch you, especially when you have tattoos. People want to touch me, and I'm like, it's not going to change the way my skin feels, and I also really don't want you to touch me. So I just give people their hands back. Highly recommend doing that to people, because it tells those people that they're crossing a boundary, and it's also kind of kind, where you're just like, here you go, take your hands back, thank you. You know, it's more polite than just being like, you know. So I usually give people their hands back, and I didn't do this before. I was very like submissive. Whenever conflict is happening, I'm always trying to like calm it down. I want people to de-escalate. I don't like yelling and things. I mean, I do a lot of yelling though, but that's what, like, the yelling is for the music, for the songs. I scream in the song, but like if we're talking and a voice is raised, I get kind of anxious, and I don't like that. So I was always trying to deflate things, even when they were inappropriate at the time, when I was 18. I didn't know better. I know better now at 29, but, and that's why this experience is relevant to share, and I've never shared it before with anybody other than like very close people to me, because it's vulnerable. So like this behavior with this drummer N was escalating a little bit over time, where my ex-boyfriend, the boyfriend that I was currently with during the time that band was happening, he was the guitar player, and we were kind of co-leading the band together. And we would get done with band practice after N would be like holding me by my waist and getting kind of like too touchy, too inappropriate, in a way that was kind of making A mad. And he would complain about it. We get in the car and go home and be like, why is he like this? Like, we don't want conflict though, because we're in a band together, and maybe he's just being cool, like making excuses for him and trying to deflate. Oh, it's just a joke, it's whatever. And so this went on for a while, but it didn't escalate. And then we ended up at a party together with our other bandmate T and another friend with a name that starts with an R, and another friend with a name that starts with an M, and she was the only woman there at this party. And my boyfriend at the time, A, and this drummer, N. And we were drinking, And we were just having a good time in this party setting. And I knew M, the woman, the girl. She's only a few years older than me. She's really like close to my age, actually. And she used to give me rides to school. We used to hang out. She used to help me with math homework. Like we used to be friends in high school for a little while and hung out, whatever. And N knew other people that I knew, so he seemed more familiar to me and seemed safe just hanging out with these people. And T and R were all seemed like friends, just high school friends that we had known each other for a few years. And the boyfriend that I was with at the time, I had been with him for like a year and 8 months, I think. We were together for almost 2 years, so we were like a serious relationship. He knew my family. He went on a family trip with me that summer, and we were very close, very close. And he was a regular part of my life, of my family and my life. So I felt safe in this party setting with all these people drinking, getting really drunk on Jack Daniels. Gross. But we basically were just drinking and having fun, and somebody, I don't remember who said this, mentioned doing like a foursome activity. And I was like, I remember laughing, like really believing that somebody was, like, I don't know who said it. I bet it was N. I bet he brought it up. I bet it was him. That's what I suspect. I don't remember that well because I was drinking and like I don't remember exactly the order of how this happened. But I was like, no, man, like if I'm gonna, I think what I said was, if I'm gonna be with anybody tonight, it's my boyfriend, duh. Like I wouldn't be with any of you. Like, it was just kind of weird that it was suggested and made me a little bit uncomfortable. And I was just like, whatever. So we had those other two friends there who heard this, right? And I remember them getting uncomfortable and leaving because they were like, that's kind of weird. And they left. Except the one guy, the R guy, he stayed longer than T did. T left, our other bandmate. And I remember being like, I don't know, we're going to bed, I guess. I don't know. And M, she is a lot larger than me. And she's a lot stronger. I don't know if she's stronger actually, but she seems really strong. And I remember her like, oh, let's asking me to go do something, right? And she's like, let's go in here. And she pushes me into the room, actually pushed me into the room, like kind of like shoved me. And I was like, whoa, because everything was fine, but I was drunk. So I was like, whoa, okay, guess I'm getting pushed. Guess I'm really tired. I was also really tired and just kind of like over it. So I was just kind of, woo, you could push me and I would just go wherever you pushed me or whatever. And as a drunk person, I tend to be very compliant, overly compliant. I want everybody to be happy so bad. I was always so happy and so worried about everybody else being happy. So I was very like, I want you to be happy. Well, how are you feeling? What's happening? Whatever. So she pushes me into the room, and I'm pushed into the room. I'm like, okay, I'm pushed into the room. And then she pushed me again onto the bed, and this bed was against a wall. And I end up laying on the bed against a wall and just laying there. I'm like, okay, I'm drunk. They're putting me to bed. I'm going to bed. I'm thinking that I'm going to bed. And she comes in with the other guy, my drummer, and they're like kissing and doing things in front of me while I'm laying there. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. What are you guys doing? Why are you in here? And they just don't listen to me. They just ignored me, I guess. I don't know. I just remember like it was that happened, and then it was they're next to me, and then it was N telling my boyfriend at the time, A, hey, close the door and shut the lights off. And he did. My boyfriend did. I'd been with him like a year and 8 months. He did. He listened to N, closed the door, shut the lights off, and then got on top of me. And then things happened. I'm not going to go into all the details, but things happened. And I was, I never said yes. I never consented. I never agreed to any of that happening. And I felt trapped because I was against a wall. And I was like trying to be compliant. And I remember like pulling my face away from my boyfriend at the time and saying, what about that other guy in the other room? I was like weirded out that this was happening because I was like, there's another person here. Like what's happening? And I remember pulling my head away and him taking my face and like pulling my face back and kissing me, like forcing me to kiss him. And this was my partner for like a long time. I mean, that wasn't abnormal, but like the fact that it was in that circumstance was abnormal. And then was the fact that he was like participating was so abnormal. And I was like, what is happening right now? And then I noticed that she got involved. And I'm like, is he really letting this? This is really, like, I just remember, and I remember pretending to participate, which has made me feel shame for a very long time because I felt like, oh, they think that I was consenting because I was acting this way or whatever. But it's just so icky feeling to talk about this. It's so icky. I didn't want that, you know? And I was shocked because he was my partner at the time and he would have never been with me if I had been drinking because he would have said, you can't consent, you're drunk, you can't consent. So the fact that that happened, I mean, he was drinking too, so maybe he was just drunk and that was his way of dealing with it, but at the same time, he listened to what the other dude told him to do. He never would have been with me if I was drunk because he would have said, you can't consent. So it was very out of character for him to even like do that to me. And at one point, I think I remember specifically deciding that I was just participating now. Like, I guess I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I didn't want to, but I felt like I had to because I was in it. I'm like, oh, I'm in it. And now I might as well. Like, I don't know if that's really what I thought, though. I just felt so uncomfortable and like I didn't know what to do. And then there was like a break. Oh, so gross to say this. There was like a break. And then I went into the bathroom and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and being like, what is wrong with you? Like, why can't you fight? Like, I was like looking at myself in the mirror and I was like splashing water on my face. I remember being like trying to like bear myself and my hands are over the sink and I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, why aren't you fighting? And I remember like hitting the sink in frustration and just being like, why didn't I push her back? Why didn't I could have fought her off. Like in my mind, I was like, you could have fought back. Why aren't you fighting back? It was like my body and my mind were not connecting. And when I saw myself in the mirror, I realized how much my body was like, I wasn't in my body almost. It's kind of like I was like outside of my body, but in my body. Like I'm just kind of floating above myself while also being in myself. Like, I don't know. It's kind of when you feel drunk, when you're intoxicated and you're like, woo, and you're kind of like out of yourself, but then back in yourself and out of yourself. It's like, that's how I felt. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was like, I'm not here. Why? Like, I was like looking at myself like, why can't you get your shit together, Kayleigh? Like, fight. But I didn't. And I ended up alone with my ex at the end of the night. And then I woke up the next day and I remember M looking for her phone and trying to help her find her phone. I just tried to help her find her phone. And I'm still like coming out of my sleep. I'm a very slow to rising person. When I first wake up, I need time. And this was especially a time when I was like, what is happening? Who am I? I am awake now. And she's looking for her phone and I'm trying to help her find her phone. She doesn't find it. I don't know. She left and I ended up alone. And I called my cousin and I said, what happened? I relayed everything that happened the night before. and it might not have been the next day, actually. I think I took a couple days where I was like, I felt kind of bad about what happened. Like, I was kind of ashamed, like I did something bad that I shouldn't have done, because I knew it was violating my boundaries in my relationship, because him and I would have never done that. We would have never, like, I'm a monogamous person. When I'm with one person, I'm with one person. So it made me really uncomfortable that happened, and I was still trying to process that. I think it was like 2 days later that I called my cousin, and I was like, dude, this happened, and I didn't really want it to happen. And I know that I said no initially. Like, initially when the idea was brought up, and I said no. And I said it like that too. I was like, no, I wouldn't do that. Like, what are you talking about? You guys are goofy. Like, what are you saying? And they played it off like that, right? Like, they made it funny. Like, oh, you're just joking around, man. Like, it's just cool. It's cool. It's whatever. Nothing bad's whatever. And my cousin said, Kayleigh, you were raped. They raped you. I was like, did they? I don't know if they did. I don't know if that technically counts as that, because I kind of like participated, but I feel like that happened eventually. Like, I was participating because it was eventual. Like, I did get to a point where I just accepted that this was happening, like, and I just, whatever. I was against a wall with two people next to me and my ex above me. I was basically sandwiched, and just, I don't know what to do. I could have just, like, I wish I would have just launched myself up out of that situation, but I didn't. And I will always have this experience as like a confusing trauma where I still don't understand why my ex did that. Even to this day, I am confused as to why he allowed that to happen. I think he's confused also. I feel like he doesn't, I don't really know. I never felt like I got closure on this event, because when I tried to tell M that, like, hey, dude, like, I didn't really want to do that, and I felt like that was kind of wrong what happened to me. And her and the other guy R, like, the guy R, the two guys that ended up leaving, I messaged both of them privately and was like, you guys know what happened to me, right? After you left? Like, I kind of wish you would have stayed so that maybe it would have stopped it, And T was extremely empathetic and ended up thinking of A differently after that, and ended up just distancing himself from all of us. The band fell apart at that point. Obviously, the band's not together anymore after this event. And I'm trying to tell people, like, hey, it was kind of like a rape, I guess. Yes. I don't know. I had a hard time saying that for the longest time, because it just felt so uncomfortable. Like, and I just felt ashamed that I didn't do the things I was supposed to do or whatever. And I got a black belt and I didn't even do what I was supposed to do. The things that I was trained to do, I didn't even apply them. I just freaking was drunk. I was just drunk. And, I feel like, though, my partner at the time, it's important for me to be with somebody who can protect me. Like, yes. I'm a very confrontational woman, and as a front person, especially, like, my personality is very leader based. Like, I can lead and direct things. I need a man that is, like, more of a leader than I am. Like, he's got to be more masculine to match me. And I think that the ex that I was with at the time was just way too submissive and, like, kind of passive aggressive sometimes. And he just wasn't. It was just a bad situation. And I kind of went crazy after that, because a month later, I know it was a month later, so this must have happened in July. I never documented anything. I never went to a police station or went to a hospital and got a kit done. I never did any of that. I just was in denial that it was even an assault. I really didn't want to admit that it was, because I didn't want to break up. I'm very, like, I hold on to my relationships tightly. I didn't want to break up with him, but it was a big damage to our relationship. Like, I couldn't even kiss him because I felt so grossed out about him, like, pulling my face, and it was just like reminding me of trauma every time he wanted to be affectionate. I was just like, I don't want to think about this. And so a month later, my ex-boyfriend, who I was dating before this ex, his name was Mark. He passed away. And I'm not sure if his family would be okay with me saying this. So I believe that he passed away self-inflicted, and his family may think differently, but I disagree. And it was even more traumatizing because he was 19 and had decided to commit suicide. And I remember looking at him in the casket like a month after this trauma happened. I'm still processing that. And then I'm looking down at my ex in the casket at 19 years old and thinking, I have to break up with A. I must. Like, I knew. It was like seeing that moment of just the finality of you don't have all the time that you think you have. You can die young, right? Like, that processing in my mind was like, I can't do this. I can't be in this relationship anymore. So that day at Mark's viewing, I contacted A, and I was like, we need to talk in person. We talk in person. I'm trying to explain how much this event impacted me and how devastated and sick I was with grief and confusion and this event, and just like, I have to leave you. Like, we have to break up. And I remember him just screaming and crying and like, it was like traumatic. Him reacting to me breaking up with him was like even more traumatic, of just like, he was so dramatically upset about me breaking up with him. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to hurt you, but I have to figure some things out. I am so confused right now. Like, what is happening? So it must have been in this week. Because after I broke up with him and told him I was breaking up with him, my grandpa died a week apart from when Mark died. So in that week, and my grandpa I was very close to my grandpa. He was in the hospital for pneumonia, and I didn't think anything of it because my grandpa just survived a heart surgery. I thought he was going to be fine. I did not think he was going to die. And I told my biological dad, who I don't talk to at all, or have any association with. He's a raging alcoholic, and he's very emotionally and mentally exhausting and abusive in his own right. But I told him, because it's my biological dad's adopted father who passed away. That's my grandpa. And so when he was dying in the hospital, I didn't know he was dying, but my biological father told him that Mark had just died, and that I was going through it with Mark, even though I specifically said, don't tell Papa that this happened, because I don't want him to be worried about me. And I actually went to visit my grandpa with A. I went to visit my grandpa with A, so that my grandpa didn't think that we broke up. I didn't want my grandpa to be worried about me because he's in the hospital. He's an old man. He's in his 80s. I don't want to stress out my grandpa. So, and then he died right after that last time that I saw him. And I actually showed him Sunless Moon in the hospital because we had just recorded it and we had it out, and I wanted to show it to him. And I remember him saying, "You're going to make it." My grandpa always believed in me. He came to all my choir concerts with tears in his eyes and flowers in his hands. Like, my grandpa was amazing. He was such a wonderful man. His name was Ronald Fick, and he is a wonderful, badass human being who deserves to be honored. I will always talk highly of my grandpa. I wish he was here. But that losing him was very traumatic, as much as losing Mark was, because it was just like somebody who's older, and that kind of makes sense when an older person dies, but you're still affected if you're really. I was really close with my grandpa. We used to go to lunch and talk together on the phone all the time, and because my mom would always emphasize, you never know when it's the last time you're going to talk to your grandpa, you better call him. So I always called my grandpa and always talked to him, and we were very close. So my biological dad told him about Mark dying when I specifically said, don't tell him that. And so my grandpa was worried about me. And so I went and pretended like I was still dating A when we were actually broken up, so that my grandpa wouldn't worry that we were broken up. I said, can you go visit my grandpa with me so that he doesn't think that we broke up? Like, cause like, and he's a nice person enough to come with me to go visit my grandpa. He was like, of course, you know. But one night, I'm going to talk about the in-between. I think this is the timeline where trauma happened and then Mark died. Then in between Mark dying, I visit my grandpa. And then my grandpa dies. So there's this in-between point where I was going to bed one night in my room. And it was after Mark and after the trauma event. And it was before my grandpa died, because we were going to visit him the next day. It was the next day that we were going to visit him that I had I'm going to call it a vision. I have to confidently say it's a vision because I believe in Jesus Christ and I believe in the truth of the word, and I should be bold about that. If anybody takes anything away from me, it's that I'm a Christ follower and I do my best with that. So, okay. Think of this. You're going to bed and you're not quite asleep yet. But you're in between sleeping and going to bed. Your eyes are closed. You're trying to go to bed, but you are fully awake and you're talking to yourself. You know, your own inner dialogue. I'm laying in bed. And I'm against a wall in this one angle of the room. And then the doorway is like just diagonal to me and it's open. My house is really small. So there's like a hallway and my parents' room is across the hall. And that's kind of like the main part of the house. And there's like a light coming into my room and I'm half asleep. I'm aware of my room. And I just randomly, like I'm laying here trying to sleep, normal day, normal whatever. And this dark feeling, like this encroaching, nasty, creepy ass feeling just floats into my room. I seriously felt like something creeped into my room. And I just felt it, like this cold. And I'm like, I want to open my eyes and look around my room because I'm like laying there with my eyes closed. Why am I feeling this? Like it came into my room, some energy. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I want so badly to turn around and look because I'm like, what is going on in my room that I feel like this? But I had this small voice in my head that said, just let yourself fall asleep. Just let yourself fall asleep. And I thought that was kind of weird, but it was like persistent over and over and over again. And it was like, don't look. Just let yourself fall asleep. Just let yourself fall asleep. And I was like, I guess I'm going to let myself fall asleep. I don't know. I'm scared of what I'm going to see if I turn around. So I did. And it was like almost immediately when I made the decision that I was going to fall asleep, that all of a sudden I heard all this sound, like, you know, when a static sound, like wind, in my ears as I'm like once I made the decision to fall asleep, I just hear all this sound and all that. And then I saw like, you know, like in a collage sometimes in a video where things are moving like this in front of you. Like I had like this, first it was like a baby doll, like in my vision, a baby doll with one eye open and one eye closed, and the eye was like doing this, like a broken baby doll doing that. And it was like up close of like the baby doll eye, and then it switched again to a man, like an Arabic man in a desert, and just the back of his head getting a tattoo in Arabic on the back of his neck. And I was like, so I was shown that, then I was shown that, and then all of a sudden I'm up in the sky, in the air, in the sky. Bright blue, sunny sky day, but I'm like above the ocean, okay? I'm looking down at the ocean and I'm going, what is happening? I'm like, I'm in the ocean. What? And I was genuinely scared. It was so real. I mean, this is the most clear, real dream I've ever had in my life. I was in the sky looking at land in front of me, some country on the ocean, and I'm like up bird's eye view of like the ocean and the land. I can see the land. I'm like, why am I in the air? Why am I descended in the air right now? And then the moment that I was like panicking, having a panic attack in the sky, I heard a voice start talking to me that said, it's cool. It's cool. You're in the sky. It's cool. I don't know if the voice said it's cool. You know how some people will say they hear telepathically from other beings or from God? Like it's like a thought that's kind of dropped into you, but you don't know a sound of a voice. You don't know the words that are said, but it's like, you know what it meant. That is what I heard of, like, all right, I guess it's fine that I'm up in the air now. Like, I was just like, okay, cool. Guess I'm in the air. And I'm just like, okay. And then I heard, just watch. So I was like, okay, I'm watching. And I'm looking at this land. And I noticed this, like, white building to the right. And I'm looking at a city. Like I don't know, like a whatever city. I don't know where I am or what I'm looking at. I just see a city on the coast, and I see a white building that I noticed. Because when I heard just watch, I'm kind of paying attention to, like, landmarks or things. And I noticed that this white building kind of looked like a mosque, like on the right side of the city. And I'm like, okay, I'm just watching. And moments later, the ground in the center of the city drops under, like War of the Worlds, like when the machines come under the ground and all the ground just goes, like, that's the first thing I saw in the center of the city, with like that like see-through bubble that comes from like a nuclear blast or like a big explosion when the wind starts to move things. It like dropped, wind is moving, and then mushroom cloud of nuclear blast, like straight up fills the city, starts coming towards me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is coming towards me. This explosion is coming toward me. And then I'm pulled away from the explosion and I'm turned over. And it's kind of like that scene in Harry Potter 3 Prisoner of Azkaban when Harry is on Buckbeak and they're flying over the water. And it's just like that really, you know what scene I'm talking about? And he's like, that's kind of what I saw. Like, I was like pulled away, and then I heard in my mind that telepathic, I didn't hear a voice, or like, I knew these words though, was, now it's time for you to meet my son. That is what I heard in my head. Now it's time for you to meet my son. And then I'm pulled away from the explosion and I'm flying over the water, and I end up in this cave, and I get into the cave and I look up, and it's this giant rock of like a compilation of fish in the rock and a real rock, and there's like water going over the fish in the rock, and all the fish are like alive. They're like half in, half out. They're like tails. It's just this big amalgamation of like fish and rock, like this big giant rock in front of me, and I'm just like, this is really weird. And the fish are like flopping around, and there's water like falling from the top of the rock. And I get behind the rock, and I see feet. I see like calves down, and I just drop to the floor, my face, whole body to the floor, to the ground. And then I look up, I'm like trying to pull myself up after falling, because I just was like forced to at that moment. I think it was Jesus, but I see feet, I drop, I'm like looking to the left, and then I see this dark hallway in the cave, and I'm like pulled into the hallway. And then I had a nightmare, and I couldn't tell you what my nightmare was because I don't remember it, but I know that I had a nightmare because when I woke up, I was like scared because I had gone through some weird nightmare. And I thought to myself, I got to tell my mom about this dream I just had. That was crazy. Like, it's unlike any dream I've ever had. It was so real. And I have really vivid dreams anyways, but it was so, I have never had a dream. I've only had a couple others that are close to this one, but this is definitely the strongest one I've ever had. That was so real. And the nightmare I had woke me up at like 6 a.m. I'm thinking, I got to tell my mom about this, because my mom is really into Bible prophecy and stuff. And I remember thinking, like, I thought there was something prophetic about what it was, because I thought I saw Jesus behind the rock. So I was like, I should tell my mom about this, see if she can put it together, because my mom's really into that stuff, like prophecy. And I wake up, it's still dark, and I see my mom out my door. I'm in my bed, and my mom is getting ready for work or whatever. And I just said, Mom, I have to tell you this. And I tell her everything I just told you in the same way, trying to remember, because I said I have to tell my mom so that I don't forget any details of this. Like, I must remember all the details of this. And I told my mom everything, and my mom said, wow, that sounds really prophetic, but I got to go to work now. So this is standard for me. I wake up early, I go back to bed. So I woke up again later, and I called my mom because I was like, Mom, did you hear like what I said this morning? What do you think about that? You know, like, let's talk about it or whatever. And my mom said, you never told me anything this morning. You never talked to me before I went to work. So I have a whole memory of telling my mom, because I was like, I can't forget. And my mom even saying, wow, that sounds really prophetic. And then leaving, and it didn't even happen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it didn't even happen. My mom said, you never talked
layers
to me
of
this
dreams.
morning. Yes. My mom was like, you never talked to me this morning. And I was like, what? And then I told her the whole thing, and she goes, well, let's start looking at like old cities in like bird's eye view from the Bible. Just see if it has anything to do with anything. And we're looking up Nazareth. We're looking up Jerusalem. We're looking up Israel, and just trying to like, I don't know, what are we looking at here? And none of it was right. I was like, none of this is right. This doesn't look like what I saw. And I knew because of that white building that I noticed that was to the right. I was like, that. And then my mom goes, look up Damascus. And I shit you not, Emma, that's exactly what I was looking at. I watched Damascus get nuked, like obliterated. It was a giant nuclear bomb. Like, and it started underground. It dropped underground first. Like, it was buried there. Like, I thought it's like buried under the city. It was the center of the city. And I remembered the city because of the white building. I found a bird's eye view from the sea of Damascus. And that's exactly where I was. It's exactly where I was. It's exactly what I saw. I watched Damascus get nuclear bombed. And I thought at the time, I can never not believe in God because of this vision that God, like, in my mind, I was like, there's no way that I could ever not believe in God. And then I ended up denying Jesus and going into witchcraft and stuff. Like, fucking, I went through so much after that. Like, I just didn't know who I was. I didn't process the trauma correctly. And then I think the next day, because A showed up to my house while I was talking to my mom about the dream, I think that was the day we went and visited my grandpa for the last time. And then my grandpa passed away like that weekend. So it happened right before that. And I remember being like, this is really bizarre, this whole thing that just happened. And then I, went into the world, and the world took me. But, my ex used to tell me that I went crazy because I said something about, like, I tried to get closure with him one time a few years ago, and I just said, I just wanted to tell you that situation was traumatic for me, and I never wanted to leave you, but I didn't feel like I had a choice. And then I see his dad at the gym, like, after we broke up, and his dad started crying and was like, we just don't understand. We just don't understand. And I was like, you need to go talk to your son. He needs to tell you what happened, because I didn't just break up with him because I just didn't want to be with him anymore. I broke up with him because he didn't protect me and he participated in a weird, nasty situation that I didn't want to be involved in. So, it's just, and then God gave me like a vision, and it was almost like something was trying to stop me from having that vision. Like the fact that it was like weird that I felt that energy come in my room before it happened. And then I had a nightmare after it happened. And then it's like God allowed me to tell my mom so that I wouldn't forget. And then my mom said to me in my dream, wow, that was really prophetic. So God was like telling me that I had a prophetic dream, which now I know, because I've done research on Damascus. Damascus is prophesized to be obliterated to where nobody can even live there anymore. So I think it's in the Bible. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that before I had the vision. I had no idea that was actually in the Bible as a prophecy, and it is. And it says nobody will be able to live there for like hundreds of years. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, that's like Hiroshima, Nagasaki style radiation. Like if Damascus is nuked, that makes sense. And it's like, I saw Damascus get nuked, and then I was taken. Now it's time for you to meet my son. And so I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, is this a rapture dream that I'm having? Like, is this like predicting when it's coming? And I always thought it would be in the summertime because, and just recently, especially with all the things going on, I always thought that we're seeing signs of end times that are in the Bible. And I thought, okay, maybe it'll be this summer. Maybe it'll be, everybody was predicting it last year. You know, there was all that hype where everyone was like, the rapture's going to happen in November, whatever, October, third eye atlas, or whatever is coming to Earth. And in my mind, I'm thinking they're going to say that aliens, you know, took us when a bunch of people disappear. They're going to say it was aliens so that the Great Deception can start and the beast system kicks in, which is all the AI stuff. Obviously, we're fighting data centers all around our area right now. I'm sharing stuff all the time because it's very prevalent in my area right now in Michigan that they are trying to build data centers around us. And everybody in the community is against it. They're all fighting it. But it's like 1 million square feet. I think the data centers they want to build, the plans are like 1 million square feet. That's like driving an hour and turning right and driving another hour of building. And that's I heard that from Ross the boss. I gotta shout him out. I can't say that came from my own brain. I heard him say that when he was talking about data centers, 1 million square feet. He Ross the boss. I don't know. I think that's his Instagram name. But he said that. I was like, that is insane. How are they going to take all this land? How are they going to do that? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, the Antichrist is going to be wanting to be omnipotent and say that he's God. He's got to have visuals on everybody all the time. That's the flock cameras, the AI listening and viewing you. And so I always thought that that's what is coming. And the fact that that stuff is coming now and we're seeing it right now, I'm like thinking, okay, where was the sun in my dream? Right. And because I was trying to think of the time of year, because Michigan, that's how we do Michigan, the hand from Israel, from Damascus, is like the sun, if the earth is round or domed, whatever. I was trying to think of what position would the sun be in location on a map from Michigan to that place, because I was like out in the ocean over this place, and the sun was behind me and up to my left. So it would have been middle of summer. It would have been sun high in the sky over Michigan, summertime, because the location it was in my vision. I never thought about where the sun was in my vision until recently, because I was like, what time of year was it in Michigan or in this place? And it was summer. So I always in my mind thought maybe it'll happen in the summertime. I don't know, but thank you, Jesus, for that vision. And I'm sorry that I denied you a second time. I've had 3 baptisms, and I really relate to Peter, because I think I've denied Jesus 3 times publicly until I finally was like, no, I've explored all the things. I know too much. I don't like it. God has to be real. Jesus has to be real. I'd explored lots of other religions. I explored a lot of New Age spirituality stuff. When you get sober, you get weird. You get very like, you want the crystals. You want the crystals. You want the tarot cards. You want the, I don't know, you want the magic. Like, you're looking for magic, because when you're drinking, you're constantly like numbing. Like, for me personally, alcohol was a part of my music routine. I was around people who drank and smoked all the time, and it was just, you were always drunk at band practice. You're always drunk at shows. You're doing drugs at shows. You're just going with the flow, man. You're just partying. That's part of being in a band, you know, you just do it. And I was drinking like all week, every week. And I thought I was normal. I thought, because I was around a bunch of people that were doing it all the time, and we were in a cover band, and I thought it's just normal. And then I met Noah, and I finally got to go to Dime, and that's where I met Noah. That's where I met Jake. That's where I met Drake. So most of my band I met at this school. And Noah saved me because
Mhm.
Noah was going to break up with me. I actually spent a night in jail. And not a lot of people know that. I spent a night in jail because I was drunk and we got in a fight and they took me because I was drunk and he was sober. And I deserved it. I needed to go. It was a hard lesson, but jail was enough to scare me into sobriety for sure. And I'm lucky I didn't get any charges or anything. Like I didn't have a DUI or nothing. Like I was so lucky to experience what I experienced in such a light way. But I really don't like the way they treat you when you go to jail. They treat you like you're not a human. Like they just really, like the way they process you and trying to talk to people. And one of the women that was processing me said, if we made you feel welcome here, you'd be coming back. So we don't want you to feel welcome here. She's like,
Mm.
that's kind of the purpose and why we treat inmates like this. She's like, we want you to not come back. So, you know, I think that Noah would have not been with me. Like he was going to leave me if I didn't get sober. So I had to get sober. And now I've been sober almost 5 years in August.
Amazing.
So, and the other thing about 2015 is when that traumatic assault event happened to me, I was really drunk and I was really young. And I thought I was just like partying with people I knew, who I trusted. And I just got to be, as a warning to young people who are drinking or just getting into drinking, you have to be very cautious about how much you allow yourself to get intoxicated. I know that you want to have fun, but you can have a couple shots and then be good for a night. You don't need to drink. You don't need people pressuring you to like, I had people like teaching me how to chase drinks. Be like, just down this liquor and then down the soda pop at the same time. And I was just getting hammered, like just drinking so much and not even realizing, because you have friends in the party scene. You are allowed to say, no, man, I don't want another drink. Thanks. No, thanks. You're allowed to say, no, thank you. And if people push you towards that, they're an asshole. Just like tell them no. And if they don't let you say no, then they're rude. People that don't let you put up a boundary are rude. Say, oh, you should drink this. You should drink. No, man, I shouldn't. I don't want to. Thanks. But I wasn't like that when I was younger. I was really submissive. And I wanted everybody to be happy with me. I wanted everybody to be pleased with me. It was very important to me. And it got me in trouble. And I just hope that, you know, if you are drinking, that you're doing it responsibly. But I encourage the sober way. California sober is fine. You could be California sober and be nice, kind, aware of yourself person, and it can be very healing. And yeah, I think that more people need to be aware that drinking in these scenarios where you are with people you think you know or your friends are actually dangerous. Like my drummer at the time, N, yeah, he apparently had a statutory rape charge with one of my friends from high school. So that was before what happened to me. I think he instigated the event because he was directing things. So whatever. These people are blocked, by the way. They don't see my stuff. But if they ever do, I just want them to know that they're very lucky I never went to the police, because I could have. And they're all living their lives without this ever being reported, because I never reported it, because I protected them. And I don't really, at this point in my life, if this happened to me at this point in my life, I would report it. Knowing what I know now, I would definitely report it. Especially if people who experience something and you're not sure of what you experienced, you should report it anyways. You should make a document and say this happened. And if you don't want those people pursued, I think you could say that too. Like you could say, I just want this for documents. Like you could go to the hospital and say, hey, I mean, I don't know how that works because I've never done it. But I wonder if you probably could just still go and have it documented so that later you could reference it. Because I kind of wish I would have gone to like a hospital and listened to my cousin who told me like, hey man, you were assaulted. And I was like, no man, I wasn't that didn't happen. That's not what happened. But it did. And now I have a band that is good to me. And they all genuinely love me, and I love them, and we worked really well together. And I have a fiance who would never let something like that happen to me. He would actually, I worry about him sometimes. He would protect me to the dying breath for the smallest of things. Like, I had a dude come into I host karaoke as well, and this dude was coming to karaoke, and he was like hitting on me and being weird or whatever. He was drunk, and I said, he asked me out by the end of the night. First thing the dude said to me, by the way, was that I smelled delicious. That was the first thing he said to me when he comes up. And I'm hosting karaoke. I'm at work hosting karaoke, and he comes up to me, and I'm thinking he's going to request a song or something, and just says, "You smell delicious." I'm like, ew, okay, gross. So then he goes and he sits down, and he's like waiting the whole night to asks me out. I'm like, I'm not single. Even if I was single, I wouldn't. But, like, I'm not single, okay? No, thank you. And he goes, well, I'm just going to keep coming back till you're not. And I'm like, what? He came back, but I told Noah, and Noah came the next week. And then they almost got in a fight at the end of my shift because Noah was like, the dude was bold enough to confront me, like, for not putting his song up. He wanted a song. He was like trying to request a song, but I had Noah sitting with me the whole night. So, but Noah is like very, he puts a boundary up. Noah doesn't like being touched. He doesn't like people touching you. I come from a family that's very, very touchy, very lovey, hands on your shoulders, big hugs, cuddling, like loving touch. I grew up with a lot of loving touch, and I am very comfortable with like hugging people and holding their hands or whatever. But when you work in a bar and dealing with the public, you have to have boundaries up. And Noah is the opposite of me. His family is not touchy, and he's shown me how to put boundaries up. I didn't know before, but now I know. And that's why I said earlier, you can give people their hands back. It's polite, and you're letting them know that they're crossing a boundary with you. Like, if I would have known that at band practice with my ex and that dude that was the drummer, I would have just given the dude his hands back, and I would have said, no thanks, man. Don't put your hands on me. It's cool. We can hang out without you touching me. Thanks. So, yeah, I think I said the things that I wanted people to take away from this in terms of just guarding yourself and being aware of your boundaries that you're allowed to have, even if you are a person like me that feels like you can't. Feels like it's not okay to say no because you don't want to look like an asshole, but really, like, you should really be okay with having boundaries. And I don't know if I said that well, Emma.
Well, you did, and I just want to validate you in a lot of ways and just kind of like share my 2 cents about what you shared. I can't even tell you how many times growing up, I didn't grow up in what a lot of my guests grow up in, just like how you didn't. I didn't grow up in a cult family, but I had friends who grew up, they had good lives. It might not have been perfect, but they were put in situations too where they froze or fawned in a situation, and then it was super confusing. And I've even been in situations like that myself. And then you look back and it's almost like how you said, you kind of like stop like reacting, and you're just kind of like shocked and like frozen. And later on you're like, wait, what the heck was I doing? Like, I would have never acted like that in real life. Or like, I've thought about if this stuff would happen to me and I would react this way, but like I didn't react that way. Like, so I must have consented, or like I must have made it be okay. And you kind of like gaslight yourself.
Yes.
But the thing that like, you can read about stuff all you want and prep for it and learn what terms are, which I didn't learn what any of that stuff was. I didn't even know that there was responses to trauma. You just think like, if you see something in a movie, you're like, why did they just sit through that? Like, I would have fought them. But when you're actually like in an instant, like, and you're not in the right state of mind, if you're drunk or if you're on some type of controlled substance, even if you're just stressed and like tired, and just trying to like chill.
Yes.
Like, we react differently when trauma is being done to us unsuspectingly, and like when we're not looking for it, when we're just like in an environment that should be comfortable. You react differently than what you think that you will a lot of times. And that's why those terms exist: fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. And it's extremely common. I hear all the time from survivors on my podcast that blame themselves for all the years that they never stood up to their parents, all the times that they didn't fight. They just let things happen. They feel like they're the ones that did something wrong. And it's like, we need to take that back and like actually look at that and like study moments of trauma and see how common it is that as much as we think we're going to fight and we're going to, you know, be these badasses, sometimes we will be. And other times, if we haven't like practiced that or like learned about it enough and like you said, created a boundary that like we're really firm on, which many of us haven't, like we didn't grow up, like my parents didn't teach me about all that stuff. They like probably didn't really know about it themselves. It wasn't like a common thing. I didn't learn about it in school. You just kind of like see things in movies and will tell yourself like how you would react in a situation. But when it's people that you care about, especially, it's really difficult to disturb the peace if you're the only one who's disturbing it. If there's a whole room full of people that are going along with something, and you're the one that has to be the one to stand up, even though you're tired, you're drunk, it wasn't on your bingo card for the night, like you were just trying to chill. Like that is a really horrific situation to be put in when all of a sudden the situation flips and there's something bad happening and everybody's participating in it. And you feel like you're the crazy one. Like, am I the weird one for like not wanting this? And like, I'm drunk. I don't even know like what I'm thinking and like what's happening, you know, like I'm not even like connected to my body right now. And so like, I think your testimony is so important because it's something so many people go through. And those are some of the deepest traumas that people have that they're afraid to talk about because they feel like somehow they caused that and they consented to it. But it never felt right to them and they don't know why. And they just beat themselves up for it. But rape doesn't look like how it does in movies most of the times. It's not somebody jumping out of a dark alley and attacking us. That does happen. But what we learned from survivors is that like 90 to 95% of the time that sexual assault, rape, abuse happens, it's by somebody that we're close with. And it's very difficult to manage those emotions and our reactions when somebody that says that they love us, somebody that we love, people that we spend time with, people that we trust are violating us. It feels like, well, I've already been intimate with this person or I've already spent time with this person.
That's
so like,
exactly
is this a violation? Like, is this a violation? Like, I know these people so well. Is this just like, is this a violation or is this something that I just went along with? But like a violation is a violation. Like if you were in a room of strangers and a stranger pushed you into a room onto a bed and two other people came in along with that stranger and pressured you to do something while you were inebriated, like we'd have no trouble like discerning, okay, that's probably a rape. Like 3 strangers came in and like sexually assaulted me. I was drunk. I didn't say yes. And like, I wasn't even in my right mind. And who knows if these people could have attacked me, could have killed me. Who knows if they had weapons on them. If I did try to fight, what would have happened? 3 against 1. Like that's, and I'm drunk. Like there's just so many elements to these testimonies and to these abuse situations that don't get talked about enough. And I really appreciate you bringing this to the table because it's a guilt and shame point for a lot of people who went through something similar and who spend their whole life being confused and justifying it. Well, I love that person. That person said they loved me. So it wasn't a rape. It wasn't an assault. Like I must have done something wrong or I didn't say no, but like, that's not how abuse works. That's why, like I said, those terms exist. And I'm going to bring up real quick too. One of the things that we were talking about recently is that term called fawning. And if people haven't looked up fight, flight, a lot of people know what fight and flight means. Like you either run or you sit and fight. You know, if you are attacked in an alleyway, those are 2 options of things that you might do. But there's 2 other options, freezing and fawning. And from what Kayleigh was saying, you know, some of the things that she grew up being because she's a good person is she's somebody who she cares about how other people think. Like you're a natural empath. You're somebody who's compassionate. You're somebody who deeply feels for other people and you want to take care of people. Yes. And so when you look at like the definition of fawning, which is a trauma response, people prioritizing others people's needs to avoid conflict and to feel safe. This behavior can lead to neglecting one's own needs and can impart mental health. And some of the takeaways are fawning's a trauma response where individuals prioritize others' happiness over their own, over accommodating others, difficulty saying no, suppressing personal values, in strategies to overcome, including setting healthy boundaries, practicing self-compassion, blah, blah, blah. But really, like, what this is it's like where you freeze in a moment because there's dysfunction going on and it's very uncomfortable to be the one to disturb that peace, especially if that's not something that you, like a boundary that you had thought that you needed and you didn't establish it. And if it's not something that you practice. And I think that like these are really common responses that we have in trauma that we might not think we'd ever have. And it's really important that we learn what these are. That way we aren't carrying guilt for something that wasn't our fault. And what happened to you was not your fault. Like you should have had all those people, nobody in that room should have ever pushed you, should have even been doing any of that, especially knowing that you were in a relationship too. Like you were in a monogamous relationship. You didn't go to some swinger party where like, that's what you were looking for. Like there were so many ways that you were violated, that your relationship was violated, and that nobody stood up in that room. Like whether or not everybody fawned or they literally just like wanted to do it and went along with it, like nobody stood up for you. You were drunk on a bed, you were pushed there, you were put there, and your response was to freeze and to fawn. Like it was very disorienting, very confusing. You almost like dissociated out of your body. You didn't feel like connected with your mind and body. You were drunk. Like you were violated, you were raped, you were assaulted. And like, it's important that you are able to validate that for yourself and tell yourself that. And if anybody on the other side of the screen went through something similar, it's important that you too take time to validate yourself and to comfort yourself and to have compassion and to use those terms and realize that that was what happened to you. It wasn't you consenting just because you didn't say yes or no. Like if you didn't say yes, you did not consent, period.
Yeah.
Like, period, point blank. Like there's no other conversation with that, and like, we need to be okay with realizing that that is a trauma response. If something's like dysfunctional is happening and that is like what happens, that's a normal response. There's nothing wrong with you. That is something that happens to people. And we need to be able to realize that that's because of trauma. That's not because you're weak. It's because there's dysfunction happening. It's because there's something traumatizing happening. And that is the response, and I think your testimony is really important because it helps give people back their power who are suffering with these things that happen so common. I barely have any girlfriends who don't have some type of a similar situation, maybe not extreme as yours, where there was like a 3 against 1. But maybe they were drunk and, the boyfriend that they had at the time slept with them and they were literally like, a dead fish on the bed and like had no, they weren't involved with it. They didn't sit there and like, they weren't into it. They were almost just like laying there like dead almost, and then they wake up the next day like, why would you have, had sex with me whenever I was literally like disoriented? I was drunk. Like, is that rape or not? And it's just really important that like we're talking about these things because it doesn't have to be satanic ritual abuse or MK Ultra for abuse to be valid, for it to matter, and for it to be something that hurts us and traumatizes us and makes us, changes us for the rest of our life and becomes something that like we have to heal from or like develop a boundary for. And so I know I'm getting long-winded with this, but I'm just like,
you're saying the right things.
We just really have to we have to validate all kinds of abuse. And some people, I've had emails from people who are like, yeah, well, I went through this and this, but I just don't feel like it's good enough to talk about because it's not what a satanic ritual abuse survivor went through. Like what I went through is nothing compared to that. Like we got to stop that. Like trauma is trauma. Our body doesn't know. People that go through satanic ritual abuse and these other abuses also fawn and freeze. Like those are it's just a response. Our body doesn't know the varying degrees of trauma. It just knows something traumatizing is happening. And like, I don't know what to do. Our brain doesn't register, oh, well, this is just this. It's not that. Like trauma is trauma and our body registers it all the same. And I'm just so sorry that happened to you because you were such a precious and amazing woman and girl. You were so young. I can't even imagine if something like that happened to me whenever I was 18, 19. Same exact thing. I would have probably froze and been like, what's going on? Like, my boyfriend's doing this, my friend, like, I don't know. Yeah, like, I can't fight. Like, what am I gonna do? Punch these people out? Like, I like these people, you know, like, these are my friends. Like, it would just be so confusing to go through that.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you sharing that. And I can't even imagine going through that young and trying to process that, in addition to losing an ex-boyfriend, your grandpa, having just so much happening at once. That had to have been a really, really difficult time for you. And I'm so sorry that you were violated, especially by people that you had dreams and aspirations with, you know, a partner that you probably wanted to be together with longer than what you were because of that event. And, you know, but at the same time, I'm really grateful that it led you to the band that you have now, that you have an amazing partner who would bend over backwards to protect you with all of his being.
Yes, he would.
And, you know, and you're so resilient. And I know that all of that has to do with you healing from all of this. And, oh, look at that. I love that so much. You have a tattoo.
Resilience.
Yeah, that's you know, but that's because you took the time to try to understand all of this and navigate it when you could still be an alcoholic, you could be homeless, you could have, you know, God forbid, lost your life, or you could be in jail longer because of, you know, becoming a statistic to the side effects of the trauma that you experienced. And so I'm just so proud of you for how far you've come. And like, you're so courageous for coming on here and talking about this, and for validating other people's experiences, and just for getting it out of your body. You know, you've held this within you since you were like 19, you know, and it's time that it comes out and that you get to be freed from it. And like, you get to throw that shame off of you and that guilt and put it out there, because it was not your fault. You were violated, and that was fucked up what people did to you, and that you didn't have nobody in that room stood up for you.
No. And I really wanted closure for a long time from my ex, and he could never give me an explanation or that closure. So sometimes it's good to just let things go, you know, like,
Yes.
I don't even know what closure really looks like. I feel like sometimes people have an idea of an expectation of closure, but really it's just about you choosing to have peace or not. And for me, choosing peace means I get this off my chest and I admit that this happened, because I don't want other people to be in this situation and not know what happened to them, like feeling confused about it, the guilt and the shame. I had a friend tell me to omit guilt and shame from my life completely when I was going through my, you know, you and I both went through like a self-discovery phase where we were listening to entrepreneurs and leaders and the what would you call that? Like the niche is like motivational speakers.
It's like personal development, kind of. I feel like that's.
Yes.
But it's like, you know, it's sort of like new age in a way. It's kind of like enlightenment through like developing yourself, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both went through a big phase with that.
Yeah. And I feel like that in general, you can only get so far until you're like, okay, what else? Like, what else? And that's kind of me with the music industry, and why I really like your episodes that involve musicians who are giving insider knowledge on that, because I would never make it by selling my soul. I would never take part in this weird blackmail thing that's happening. I would never just be quiet if I saw, wait a second. See, that's scary. When you think about people that are in compromising situations where like their families are getting threatened, they're like, do this or your family's getting threatened. What would most people do? Like, this is why it's so common and such a big problem.
Yeah.
And people think that it's crazy to think, oh, it's just a conspiracy theorist. It's like, bro, go watch the football game and just shut up. Like, I don't, God, you want to be in that, whatever. I'm not trying to judge people who like football. I'm so sorry. Anyways, you can like sports and all those things, but I just got to a point where I was like, this doesn't feel real, and I need to know the truth, because if I'm working my ass off for this music career and I want arenas so bad, and I think I'm going to meet Eminem and do a song with him one day, like, I have to know, what is this? What is this really? Like, what am I going for? Why am I going for it? And I had to think of why. And to me, whatever this why is that some people have, where they just are obsessed with getting famous and they'll just do dumb stuff, dumb degrading things, and maybe they had experience with abuse in their life. I know that I recently asked a question to JR, and I said, how many people are compromised? On that episode when JR did the questions, he answered my question about how many people are actually compromised, and then he talked about a few different people that he knows, like character types. And I was like, so you really just don't know? Like, I just don't know. It could be, could not be, might be, you know, and with celebrities, like, I really wonder how many of them are actually, and you can see the signs and the symptoms. Everybody just ignores it. Like, this whole world is just ignoring all the weirdness that's happening. And it's like, I think maybe that's a fawning. Like, Emma, thank you so much for giving me a word to describe this, because I have been so confused for so many years. And it was just so validating to hear you say, like, when you sent me that post about fawning, I was like, oh my God, this explains so much about how I react to things. And I've always been frustrated with myself. Like, I don't know why I'm like this. Like, why do I do this? And it just, I have words for it now. And I think part of what's happening with the public is they're fawning, or they're just like, they can't even process what you're telling them, and they just shut down. Like, I do, honestly, I had a goal when I started listening to your podcast that I was going to listen to a survivor a day. I was like, I'm going to listen to a survivor a day, because I clean houses and I'm listening in headphones and I'm driving a lot. So I'm like, I can spend time hearing these people. And boy, I've listened to hundreds of testimonies, and they all put pieces together. Like, when people are like asking me about the survivor community and what's going on, when I do kind of share my opinion, I'll just say you have to listen to as many survivors as you can. Just listen to as many as you can, because it'll put pieces together. I can't tell you everything that's going on. You have to go and research it yourself. You have to go listen to these people, and you can determine if you think they're lying or not. Like, whatever. I choose to believe them, because I feel like the things they're saying, it's just not stuff you say. Like, it's just, oh, what's her name? I really like her testimony. She's a tattoo artist, and she's been on a few times. Carrie Olahe. I love Carrie, and her testimony was great. And she said some things that were just validating, and just so many. I want to shout out everybody. I have to shout out Daniel Forsyth right now, though, because he's actually a friend of mine. When he talked about that deal with the devil thing, I was like, I gotta talk to him. What was it? And I ended up calling him and talking to him, and he's a wonderful brother in Christ, and we still are kind of in contact. And he's just really like a decent person who heard me out. Like, he heard this stuff. I talked to him a little bit about this stuff and my experience with certain things. And he was just so validating as well, and kind to me. And, you know, we as recovering addicts, him as well, like, was talking to me about recovery in the music industry and all these things that you think are cool, but they're not, because everybody makes it a joke, you know, the celebrities and oh, it's just a joke. It's just funny. Let's just talk about pizza and joke about it like it's a silly, funny thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to mention this right now because I saw it on Facebook, and I saw it on X way before I saw it on Facebook. But there's this like, okay, I'll say this briefly. When I was going through this stuff, you know, the personal development journey, I developed an eating disorder with bulimia, and I was really struggling with it. And I am better. I think it's been longer that I've struggled with my eating disorder. I healed from that a long time ago, but it's kind of triggering for me sometimes to think about throwing up or just whatever. Like, I get really like, icked. And there was a video I saw of Lady Gaga, and I used to love Lady Gaga. I loved her. And I saw this weird video of her like having a girl like make herself throw up on her while she was playing drums. Do you know about this video?
Mm-hmm.
And I was so triggered by this video that I was like, why would she do that if she's like born this way, all inclusive kind of artist? And there's people that have eating disorders, and there's girls like making herself throw up. I knew something was wrong after that, because I was like, Gaga doesn't care about me. If she posts this nasty, like, what is this? Like, anybody should, I don't know why it exists. It's so nasty and it's weird, like, that she would do that. But she's like, all for the sake of art. It was art. It was artistic, whatever. But it's actually just nasty. Like, just pulling it off as something that was a joke or art. But it triggered me, one of her fans who had an eating disorder in the past. And then I saw that and I was like, I'm all freaked out now and traumatized. Like, what is this? So then, you know, I started to wake up about her. And then I saw that post of the cake. Bless you. I think I saw you sneeze. I know you're muted though. She had this, it's a picture that was on X of a cake. It's a cake, but it looks like a human body in a basin of blood. Have you seen these pictures from one of the white parties? I gotta tell you, like, that picture that I saw of Gaga, she's standing there. She has a little spoon in her hand. They've got like spoons in their hands, and they've got this body, and they're like scooping the blood off of the body and like eating it. Like, so I'm like, what is this? And I remember one day I was looking at that picture and I saw a different view of it, and I saw the face of the body, and I was like, this is a real body. I swear this is a real body. This looks like a real body. And you know who it looks like? It looks like Anne Hetch. If you see those pictures, go look at her face. It looks like Anne Hetch. It looks like her. So much like her. And I was kind of scared because I posted that under the X post. And I didn't see anybody saying this. I was like, that kind of looks like Anne Hetch, doesn't it? And they were like, nobody was responding. It was like one of those corners of X where people were talking about this stuff. There was only a few of us on the post. And then I got kind of freaked out, and I think I deleted my post because I was like, ooh, if I'm right. And I still think it's Anne Hetch. I've seen that picture shared around. I saw that picture shared on Facebook this year, and I was like, oh my God, Facebook's normally Candyland, and they're sharing this. It's just, when you listen to enough survivors, bottom line, you get a better perspective of the world. And when you do your own research, when you learn new things, read different books, talk to different people in different cultures, you'll understand so much more. And I love people. I love different cultures. I love learning different styles of music. I love hearing different stories. I just want to give a big thank you and a virtual hug to all the survivors who want the hug. That I just thank you guys so much for sharing. You've put so many pieces together for me, and I thought, if you can talk about the things that you're talking about, which are very hardcore traumatic compared to what I went through, then I could talk about what I went through, and then hopefully maybe somebody would be warned to protect themselves and to have validation about what fawning is, which I'm really just so grateful to you. I'm going to have to take time to think about that, but there are other things that we could talk about involving all the conspiracy theories and the visions, because like I said, that one vision that I had in 2015, I had another one after I saw Sound of Freedom, and I think it was like 2023 maybe I had this one, but it was about CERN. And I think it's important, and I don't know if I have time to share it today, but maybe we could do a part 2 and share the CERN vision next time, and then include some of this other stuff, like, because I really do want to. Jim Morrison is so important to my poetry journey, and he's unlocked so many doors for me. And I read the book No One Here Gets Out Alive, which is like the main Doors book that people read for the Oliver Stone movie. But then I read The Life of Jim Morrison by Stephen Davis. That biography on Jim is way more accurate, and I posted about it on Facebook. I recommend that book to people. I've read it a couple times now, and somebody got mad at me,
and was like, this book is inaccurate about Jim, and this is not the right way. Jim was a dumb, drunken, blah, blah, blah. Like, just shitting on Jim Morrison. And I know the story about him with Janice and, like, the things he did, but if you listen to other, like, perspectives about Jim, I think that he was, like, a survivor. I think he was a survivor, and I think he tells you he was a survivor in his poetry. But it's really abstract, and like in my songs, like Wisher, I can bring this full circle to Wisher, and why? Because when I started Wisher, I was going to call it Dear Dawn, because I was obsessed with Jim Morrison, and I wanted to call it Dear Dawn, inspired by Jim. Like, this tattoo is Jim Morrison inspired, because that quote where he's like, I'm a Sagittarius, the most philosophical of all the signs. I'm also a Sagittarius, by the way. I personally think it's a bunch of bullshit, but I know, you know what, I'm going to get my kicks before the whole shit house goes up in flames. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of Jim's most famous live quotes. And Take It As It Comes, the song Take It As It Comes, is time to point your arrows at the sun. And I have a sunflower on my sternum, and it's an arrow pointed at the sun, and then it's the ruling planets of Sagittarius, Jupiter and Saturn. So this whole abstract piece is kind of like a poetic, abstract visual of the song Take It As It Comes by The Doors, and like Jim Morrison inspired. So he's really important to why, just how I processed things, like after that stuff happened, how I ended up getting back to a healthier place was because of Jim Morrison's poetry. And I think he deserves more credit as a poet, as much as people like shit on him and say he was a dumb drunk, or I get that a lot when I talk about Jim. Like, people really want to hate on him, and I'm like, maybe he does deserve some hate for certain things that he did, but I'm telling you, if you read his poetry books, which I own a couple of his, I think I own all of his poetry books actually, in print form, and I've just sat and read through each book, and he was talking about things that sound like what you talk about on this podcast, what your survivors talk about. He talks about things in a way that make me think he was abused when he was young, and his dad was in the Navy, and his dad was like a military general or whatever, and he hated his family. And then he emphasized the like Opedius Rex story with the song The End, where it was like just the way Jim deserves a whole episode. I'm sorry, he just does. And the way his poetry has affected my poetry, and the way I write, is very Jim Morrison inspired, although it's still in like a heavy metal form. Like the song Get Off. We were talking about my songs with Wisher. Get Off is about being frustrated with life and struggling with addiction and things like that, and like fighting off your demons. It was kind of inspired by the song Crazy on You by Heart, which was like, the world is so crazy and we need some form of release and some form of love or relaxing on this earth. But I want to emphasize for anybody who listens to Get Off by Wisher, there's a censored version, there's an uncensored version. The kids do not listen to the uncensored version, but the uncensored version is not carnal. I want to emphasize this because the lyrics are fuck me, cut me, free me. And the censored version is love me, cut me, free me, whatever. And obviously like the cutting and self-harm was kind of a part of my process as well. You can see I'm covered in artwork that was harmed me in order to get it. So that's also why those lyrics are in Get Off. But my mom has a mouth where she curses a lot. I grew up just hearing swear words as like a normal thing. And I told you, I used to listen to Eminem all the time. So like these words were never strange to me. Now as a grown up, I'm a little bit more like aware. I'm turning into an old Catholic lady or something. I don't know. But the lyrics to that song came out very naturally. And my mom, when she's mad or like hurts herself, she'll go, fuck me. Like in a way that's not like carnal, not like gross, like whatever these celebrities are doing and saying. It's not like that. But people obviously are going to interpret it. They think I might mean that. But I want the public to always know, and I want it to always be on record. The only reason why that lyric is in there is because when my mom is mad, She goes, fuck me. And that's kind of like the way I'm saying it in the song is like, damn it. It's like, damn it. You know, it's like a worse version of damn it. Or, oh, piss, or something like that. Like, it's like, that's kind of what it is, but a little bit more crude. So, I just hope people know that I wasn't trying to be nasty with Get Off. It was an expression of frustration when we were writing the song. It's like, honestly, I'm faking overly frustrated. Like, the lyrics are, honestly, I'm faking overly frustrated. Fuck me, cut me, free me. It's like, the fuck me is the I'm mad. The cut me is the go get a tattoo or go to the gym, burn, rip your muscles apart. Like that, free me, like from my mind of like this, I'm stressed, you know, like very, it's abstract poetry kind of, but it's in my lyrics. I write all my lyrics and vocals for Wisher's stuff. So all of those words are there because I wrote them in poetic form. And yeah, I think I came full circle on it. I still talked about Jim Morrison, kind of talked about Jim Henson. Jim and Jim deserve an episode, though, if we can do that at some point, and other things. But
Absolutely. I would love to have you on again. I think there's so much more that we can dive into with your story. And I also think talking about your music more sort of as like a healing art form and something that, you know, that you pursued professionally and your process even for making songs. I think it'd be really fun to dive into that and like your inspirations and even like your journey through sobriety and talk more about that. Yes. That's something a lot of people struggle with. So let's definitely do a part 2. But one thing I was thinking was I sort of am having a vision of ending this episode a little bit different than how I normally would. How would you feel going over your social media, sharing where to find people? And then why don't we play Get Off as like the last thing that people listen to, and we'll play that at the end for people.
I think that would be great.
I do too. That would be really
Did you get the music video? I sent you the music video link.
I do have the music video up, so I can play that on here. But I want, obviously, people to go support you and to listen to your music, especially Wisher. I know we shared your other band earlier that people can go find and listen to, like, your past music, but Wisher's your baby now, and you're all over social media promoting it, and you have YouTube. So I'd love for you to promote and plug where people can connect with you, and let's just share about your journey online and, you know, where people can listen and support.
Yes. So I'm Kayleigh KAnn Official. That's like my main account is Kayleigh KAnn Official. But Kayleigh KAnn The Wisher is my other backup account. And I've got another Kayleigh KAnn account. So Wisher's accounts are Wisher Band Official. And the website for Wisher is wisher-band-official.com. And our merch site is down right now, but I will be putting it back up. Hopefully, maybe when this episode's uploaded, our merch site will be back online. It's not currently online, but yeah, that's our website where you can find all at the top icons. Go to all of those social pages. I use Instagram the most, but I am also trying on TikTok. And that was a really cool show at Diamondback. That picture there.
It's a cool picture.
Yeah.
Look at
we built that wall right there. We built that with Jake's dad. Jake is the bass player. And it's made it's like my ego box. You know, singers will say I have an ego box where they stand up on this platform to sing. I have that wall. We spent a whole day building that thing. I first built it out of cardboard boxes that I got from different grocery stores around, and I duct taped one together and then put like a sheet over it, like a make-believe wall sheet. But that wall that you're seeing there is actually textured. So there's my special effects Jim Henson shout out, because I absolutely love special effects and theatrics.
That's so cool. And like she said, right from the Wisher website, which I'm going to have down in the show notes, you guys can obviously go type in Wisher Official on the sites that she had already talked about, but they're all the icons, Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook are all on just the website. So you guys can go, and it's kind of the first thing that you see up at the top of it. So you guys can actually find all of it right from the website, and you guys can keep up with them and flow through all the photos and click the tabs that they have, learn about them, upcoming shows if you guys are in the area. But really important that we're supporting Survivor Ventures and their projects, and just helping them be seen online, and helping get the word out on things like avoiding the Hollywood way to get somewhere and supporting independent creators who are going alternative routes. It's really amazing, and how Kayleigh was saying that she will literally spend hours and hours and hours and hours after a show meeting people and connecting with people. She puts in so much effort to grow, and she's doing it without the help of corruption behind her. So I would love if you guys went and supported and found them. And then you are also on social media, Kayleigh, under your own name. So I want to promote that too. You're on Instagram and you're on X, and I think you're on, aren't you on TikTok too with
I am.
Okay.
Everywhere you find me is Kayleigh KAnn. My middle name's Ann, and maybe next time I'll tell a story about my sensei telling me about the word can't, changing the word can't to can. So, yeah, like we could do all this next time. Like we'll have a lot to talk about next time. That's cool. But Kayleigh KAnn the Wisher, that's kind of like my stage persona person, the person that can do these things. I actually have a link to your podcast on my link tree. Because it says cool. Listen to Survivors. I've had that up for a while. I had other things that are random that I could take down from that link tree, but
dog rescue.
Yeah, I like supporting, and Women at Risk International's on there, and just a couple songs. I'll update the link tree soon as well, but most of the things are on there that are important. And La Casa International, I think there's a link to that as well. Mi Casa International, that's another organization that's anti-human trafficking that I really like supporting. Yeah.
You guys can tip Kayleigh on here on her Venmo, and she also has up at the top her other links. If you guys just go right to her link tree, which I'm going to also have in the show notes, you guys can find her on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, email. So you guys can find a lot of her links right from here as well as the other links that she has below. Lots of resources for you guys.
Lots of ways to talk to me.
And then on YouTube, we're going to play the video, but you guys actually have a YouTube page, which is really cool too. So I'm going to bring this tab up that has the music video. I haven't started it, but as you guys can see, Wisher has an actual YouTube. So you guys can go and support, and then all the music videos and their music is on here. And you guys can subscribe and keep up with them and share and listen right here. And then you guys are on Spotify also too, right?
Yes, we are.
But did you have any closing words or anything that you wanted to say before I play your music video?
Just thank you, Survivors, for being so brave and putting so many pieces together for me. And thank you to everybody who cares about Survivors and listens to this and shares this information. And thank you to all the good people who are loving and kind to others. You make the world better, and I really hope that when the shit goes down, that those who are here do not take a weird Neuralink chip in their hand or head. And that's about all I gotta say.
I love that. Okay, so let me show real quick. I just brought up the Wisher page. So here's the page. Lots of videos, lots of content on here. And then what I'm going to do right now is switch to Kayleigh's video, Get Off. And we're going to finish the show with this. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. God bless you. We'll see you next time. And enjoy this video. And please go follow Kayleigh across all social media.